are in Milan, Michigan, where there's a very unique track arrangement here. As you can see, it says yard limit for the Norfolk Southern. And this is just the beginning of the interesting arrangement. As you can see, the track curves around, joins up with some other tracks. Then you have a very busy intersection here with tracks going everywhere. Some rail cars. What looks like on the main, but it probably isn't the main. You got two tracks. You got to switch the branches off. A very busy intersection. So when you cross the street, you have a double crossover. And you'll notice more train cars down there. So we're going to take a walk and go take a look at what we can see. In a building here marked Mechanical Department for the Norfolk Southern Lake Division. So looking back this way, this one main line looks like it's used. The other tracks don't look as used. As you can see, these rails are pretty rusty. And there is a switch here. But there's also a derail on the track. Looks permanent. And there's this interesting configuration here. Looks like it hasn't been used for a while, so let's go up there and take a look. And so you can see right about here that the weeds start in the rails. And very unique switch to the right, to the left, and then you have this track that's completely overgrown. Interesting that the ties themselves haven't been replaced for a while since it's not used, not maintained. So if you're ever going to use this, you'd obviously have to come in and replace some of these rails. It would be easy to spray the weeds, get rid of the weeds. But the ties aren't in the best of shape. And although they tell you should never walk on railroad tracks, I think it's pretty safe to say no train is coming down this particular track. Maybe the main, that's a couple tracks over. But certainly not this one. Just happened to notice too. Got a red light. red light there. Let's take a look at this switch up here. These ties too, as you can see, not in the best of shape. The rails are all rusty. Although a couple of the ties down there and a new screw, so obviously they've been worked on a little bit. More spikes. More spikes. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy. And a lot of spikes there, which look relatively new. Actually, a whole bunch of them here. So here's back-to-back switches. Let's say that one goes off into the weeds. This one comes off to the right to another track, a couple tracks actually that go into the weeds. Probably went back into that parking lot area there, but it's no longer used, and no trains are going to be traveling on this track for a while. Some more rails and ties. So when you get down to here, we go back off into the weeds, as well as these two siding tracks, which if they're leaving rail cars here, they have more space for them here, but apparently they don't need it, or they would have cleared it out. Another switch, and these rails here, completely overgrown. Not sure how far back they go. All right, we're gonna head up to those rail cars, take a look. Okay, so we made it up to the rail cars. I just want to show you that track, still very rusty. Comes out of the overgrown weeds back there, but still obviously has not been used. Not sure exactly how far up it goes, but as we go up there we'll see. But here's the first cut of cars. There's some box cars here, and then there's some auto racks in looks like two different sections. First one here is Conrail, then we have, that I can see, 4 Norfolk Southern box cars. Conrail, relatively graffiti free. Not so much for that Norfolk Southern. The artists have been busy. Let's just take a look at the other side, see what we've got over there. Okay, we crossed what I believe is the main that they still use, and then you have the auto racks on this track, and you'll notice the dip down to this siding where the box cars are. These rails are a little shinier, but you have another switch going off into the weeds up there. Let's take a look at that first, and then we'll come back and look at the rail cars. We made it up to that switch. Now this track switches back onto that first siding, and then also goes to the right. Also notice as I was walking up here, you'll see this building that has, it's hard to see both of them, but there's one high door. And see if I can get through the weeds here. And you can see part of the other door right there. But there's also a rail right alongside that building. So obviously this was a rail-served building at one point. I don't know if we can get there, but we'll try. This track goes off into some more overgrowth. And then the track that we saw alongside the building must be a switch somewhere else up there, because there's the bumper. So the cars would have come from the right, from probably alongside that cut of boxcars. When we go up there and take a look on the other side, we'll see if it's there. We're at the other side now of the rail cars. And just for the record, this Conrail is graffiti free on this side too. And on the end of it and on the side here, this car is excess height with no running board. We'll look at the large springs. We're going to brave through the weeds here. Go up a little farther. I do see, I don't know if you can see it yet, but there is a sharp switch up there that would feed what used to be the rails inside there for that other business. And I don't know if you're into model railroading like I am. Oop, big frog. Won't be able to see him. Anyway, if it's like a squirrel moment. Oh, hey, look there. Anyway, as I was saying, if you're into model railroading, this would be a unique configuration to model, where you have some sidings that aren't used that often, perhaps an overgrown one, maybe build a building and board it all up. I think that would be kind of unique. Let's see if we can get up here a little bit. There's a whole cut of cars, more than what you could see, because the auto racks were on the side of it. Well, we'll take a look farther up there. Some more graffiti. Many more rail cars up there. Here's that buried track. Don't go too far before it's completely overgrown. Still braving the weeds here. I don't know my poisonous weeds, so I'll let you know in the next video whether or not I got infected. Interesting, the long knuckle coupler on that one to a short one. It's a double door. Open this door first, close this door first. Didn't know you had to do them in a certain order when they slid like that. So that's kind of interesting. Something I learned new. So I also have another question for my rail fans and fellow rail fans, I guess I should say, is what makes one individual tie out of a bunch of them ooze like that with tar? Was it something that they put on the tie to perhaps patch it somehow? Or does one just ooze and others don't? If you have any idea, leave it in the comments section below. Got a whistle sign here that nobody will see with this cut of cars here. There's the switch. And as we look through here, you'll be able to see the auto racks. I don't know how far down these box cars go, but it looks like another, I'd say, half a dozen to maybe even up to 10. It's kind of hard to see. this would be a good time though to say thanks for coming back to my channel. Appreciate it if you'd like and share the video. I'd also appreciate if you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss an upload. I'd greatly appreciate it. It would help me out quite a bit. Thanks again for coming along here, and we got plenty more in this video to go. All right, so we made it on the other side up to the auto racks. More graffiti on these Norfolk Southern boxcars. Let's just see how close. Remember I told you there's a dip there, so you can walk between, but it's kind of hard because it's all on a slant. And of course, this is an excess height car as well. Let's take a look at the other side. We have to be a little careful here because I believe this is the main. Nothing coming that way. And all red lights that way. We're going to cross over here so we're not on the main so we can get a better view of those cars. Also Norfolk Southern TTGX flat with the auto rack built on it. Somebody just starting their graffiti career, it looks like. Not too artistic. This car is Norfolk Southern as well. Oop. Farm equipment crossing the tracks up there. And we're coming up to BNSF with some colorful graffiti. Ooh, I like that. Show them how it's done. And then somebody's signature. I like that guy. Very colorful graffiti in this. So that brings up another question for all rail fans. Is graffiti on the side of a rail car art, or is it just destruction of property? Again, I know model railroaders, some of them will run their cars all brand spanking new. Some of them will weather them up, rust them, put graffiti on them. That's what I do in my model train and scale. Actually, part of what I really like doing is weathering the cars. So we could go farther up. They split at the road. And then there's another cut down there. Maybe we'll try to drive around there after we look at the other cars. But here's another siding that switches off into it. So my guess is at one point this was probably an active small rail yard where they would park the cars and then distribute them around to the various different industries that needed them. But they're no longer rail served, which is a shame. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to head back down to the intersection there and go to the right and look at the other train cars that are there. As I was walking back, and this is where I am at this point, the end of the cut of boxcars, walking on this lower rail here that hasn't been used in a while, I happened to come across this. I thought it was an interesting thing to document. Bones. There's the skull right up there. Another bone up there. It had fur, so I'm not an expert, but I think it was probably a dog, maybe a coyote. I don't know. If you guys know, leave a comment. Otherwise, we're going to continue our journey. All right, as we continue our journey, right about there is where we saw the bones. You can see we're a little farther away from that cut of boxcars. More bones. Now this one doesn't have a skull that I can see anywhere. Again, I'm not an expert, but pretty much can tell it's not human, which is good. All right, onward. Going over there too. Okay, we made it back to that crazy intersection and where that crossover is. And now we're going to head down this track. Take a look at these cars that are down here. Some more interesting track configurations and storage tracks, both on the left and the right side. Bunch of ties here, so they're either going to do some replacing or they've done some replacing. Looks like scrap ties over here. And a rail just laying off to the side here. This smaller piece of rail. So we're going to go up and take a look at those. We made our way up to these cars. Interesting that they have yellow reflectors as well as the rail painted, so that's obviously the yard limit to this short cut of cars on the right, longer one on the left. Can't see it yet. But an extremely long cut of tank cars up there. Let's take a quick look at these two. Those cars, you can see switches off there as well. If you did model this on your model railroad, you spend a fortune in switches. Nice graffiti on the BC rail. Graffiti free. Well, I take that back. Somebody did some graffiti at the top. Not too artistic. Very rusty. So one question I would have with all these tank cars, are they empty, waiting for a call, somebody needing them? Or are they sitting here full, waiting to go wherever they were purchased? Again, if you have an idea, leave it in the comment section below. Interesting plate in the middle of the rails there. This line was originally put in by the Wabash Railroad, and then the Ann Arbor Railroad uses it. Some interesting graffiti on that train car. Makes you wonder if any of that graffiti was put on here or it just happens to be here. Personally, the only time I put graffiti on a rail car is my N scale. I don't put graffiti on the real cars. So we made it to the other cut of tank cars. That one is liquefied petroleum gas. And you see it goes up for probably another half a mile or so, maybe even a little longer. But you get the idea, we're not going to go all the way up there. It's a very hot day. I left my water in the car. Alright, as I was walking back, something you don't see too often is graffiti on the end of a train car, because people can't see your work. But on the other hand, it's probably easier to do that graffiti because people can't see you while you're doing the work. We're between the cuts of cars, the box car and the Norfolk Southern gondola. And here's an interesting card, upper left. It says Ann Arbor Railroad return card. Following defects rejected at Interchange for defective emergency, staged at Milan. That's the car number. Tagged July 19th, 2023 at 1800 hours. That's 6 p.m. in case you didn't know. Back at the intersection, this used to be probably a grain feed, something like that. Rail served would be my guess. And that we saw the other side of was the old train station. Very small. Not used as a train station anymore. Looks like just a storage area. We're going to come up and take a look at the actual diamond here. Cross over because I'm in the middle of the road. Take a look real quick. Norfolk Southern tag. There is your diamond. Two tracks one way, one track the other. Unfortunately, still no trains coming. More switches down there. Looks like a crossover. And looks like the interchange track, where they probably drop a cut of cars there. Well, a single Norfolk Southern engine came by and is hooking up to at least that first cut of auto racks. Caught up to the engine since it doesn't seem to be moving anytime quick. I do see some people down by the other cut cars, so if I had to guess, we'll see. I think he's going to push forward and hook up to the cut of cars and then hopefully head back this way. completely listening to whoever is between that cut of cars, since he can't see anything. Not with those high-rise auto racks. And when he's coming back, obviously he'll be long nose forward. And while we're waiting for him to return, gives us an opportunity to check out a little bit more of the graffiti here that we couldn't see before. He's just about to couple up to that other cut of cars, so we'll take a quick look at this graffiti here, and then we're going to go back to the intersection, and then we can see it crossing the road. For the record, it's been about 40 minutes since the last clip. I've been waiting for the train to move. So he obviously connected to the second cut of auto racks, but he hasn't come forward yet. So I walked down a little ways to see this switch to see what was going to happen. So the way the switch is set is once he gets here, he's going to cross over to the left main from the right main. So we're going to stay down here, wait for the train, try to get it on the crossover. All right, while we're waiting for the train, I just wanted to point this out down here. There's obviously was something here. There's this cement stump, I guess we're going to call it, with some type of spike or whatever right in the middle. Here's another one. There's this off farther into the clearing. A little bit more broken cement there. Another cement stump, as we're going to call it here. This one looked like it had a larger sign in it. I think photograph the train from. If it ever gets here, I think he's waiting for my bones to end up on the rails, just like those animals. All right, let's have another update. It's now been another about 40 minutes since the last clip that I informed you of. The train still hasn't moved, and there's a huge storm moving in. So we're gonna have to give up on catching this train on the way back unless we can see it from the car. However, we gave it a good shot. I'm about a little over an hour away from my home, and I'm sure I'm going to get caught in the storm, but I don't want to be outside when it happens. So again, I appreciate you turning into the channel. I would appreciate if you subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, all that good stuff. It helps me out tremendously. But thanks again for watching.